Good morning, everyone. I wanted to thank you all for joining us for the second week of the 2022 virtual summer series. This week, we're going to be discussing the various roles and responsibilities that can be found related to both insurance and risk. My name is Sydney Stenson, and I will be your moderator. Before we begin, there are a few housekeeping items I wanted to make you all aware of. To begin, I wanted to let you know that this session is closed captioned and captioning is available to everyone on the call. You can simply click on the closed captioning button on the bottom of your screen. There should be an up arrow and you can choose show subtitles whenever you'd like throughout the session, and the captioning will be available to you. Second, this session will be recorded and recordings will be made available on ISOP's YouTube channel in the coming weeks. Last week's session should be posted shortly for you to watch if you missed it or if you just want to rewatch a really great conversation. Next, please feel free to make use of the chat function to ask questions of our panelists. We'll be moderating it throughout the session, and we'll be happy to get to as many questions as we're able as time permits. I also wanted to make you aware of the upcoming events that NextGen has. We have virtual summer series sessions for every Friday through the end of August. Next week's session is on insurance, no stupid questions. And this is going to be a Q&A event. So if you register, we'll send you a survey and you can anonymously ask any questions you have about the insurance industry. And again, there are no stupid questions, and the panelists will be happy to answer all of them. Also, make sure that you just take a look at NextGen's upcoming events on the website. We have several great events coming up, including a night at the Phillies on Monday, July 25th. Additionally, before I introduce our panelists, I wanted to make you all aware of the scholarships and professional grants that are available to you. There is a student scholarship fund, and we encourage you to join our mailing list about when the application process begins for the 2023 scholarship, so you'll get notified whenever that starts. In addition, there are also professional grants available, and those are offered on a rolling basis for those who are pursuing continuing education, and you can find more information on ISOP's website. All right, now I would like to take the time to introduce our panel. So first, I'd like to introduce Denise Hunter. Denise is an Assistant Vice President and Business Development Leader at QBE North America. There, she is the key point of contact for managing overall relationships in the region and plays a critical role in driving success by strengthening partnerships and assessing QBE's diverse set of businesses and products. Denise graduated from Seton Hall University with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration with a double concentration in both finance and marketing. Denise then went on to graduate from Centenary University with a Master of Business Administration with a management concentration. Denise is also a member of our NextGen board. Next, I'd like to introduce you to Laynnea Myles. Laynnea, I should probably flip the screen, shouldn't I? She's an Assistant Vice President of Environmental Health and Safety at L'Oreal. In this role, she is responsible for integrating innovative and technological solutions to enhance an EHS culture as a strategic business partner for the L'Oreal USA Research and Innovation Division. She graduated from Iowa State University with a Bachelor of Science in Industrial Technology with an emphasis on occupational safety and health. She then went on to graduate from Columbia Southern University with a Master of Science in Occupational Safety and Health. She's also earned her Associate Safety Professional, ASP, and her Certified Safety Professional, CSP designations. Finally, I'd like to introduce Genevieve Ventiere. Genevieve is the Brokerage Marketing Manager at Allied Building Material Agency, which is a member of the Pennsylvania Lumbermens Mutual Insurance Group. There, she's responsible for managing the team tasked with delivering complete insurance packages to clients through collaboration with insurance carriers, brokers, and clients. She's a graduate of Fordham University with a Bachelor of Arts in English, and she also graduated from St. Joseph's University with a Master of Science in International Marketing. In the last 6 months, Genevieve has also earned both her Chartered Property Casualty Underwriter, CPCU, and Workers' Comp Professional, WCP designations. So thank you all for being here, and we can get started with the panel. I'm going to stop sharing this.
So I'm going to kick off something real quick. First, please understand the importance of professional photography, because both of your photos, I love them that you guys have as your headshots. The other one I kind of took the other day because I changed my hair. I was a little confused. The other one had a short haircut, so you know how that goes. But I'm loving both of your pictures, so we'll have to talk about that later. Please, everyone on this call, understand the importance of those professional pictures and that they look like them. But we'll kind of get into that later. But sorry, I just had to take the moment because I was loving the to the side with a little attitude, but professional still. All right. Sorry, Sydney, I interrupted.
First piece of advice: work for a company that schedules them for you.
Yes, very.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I just wanted to start out with kind of getting an understanding of all of your path through your careers and how you kind of got to where you are and what's your area of specialty. So I don't know if Denise, if you want to start us off.
Yeah, that's fine since I talked too much already. So Denise Hunter, I am currently with QBE. I'll give you the short version because I can go through this all day. Graduated from Seton Hall. I started doing some risk management, which I didn't realize was risk management at the time, working for a small construction firm. I started, putting out quarterly mailings and then ended up helping choose their risk profile and what their brokers and insurance program would look like. So from there, I went to Crum and Forster and did 5 years of claims handling, then to AIG for 5 years of underwriting in environmental specialty, then to Zurich for 5 years in business development, and now I'm at QBE as an AVP in business development as well.
Awesome. Laynnea, could you give us your path?
Yeah, sure. So mine is a little bit different. I actually just knew I was going to be an electronic or electrical engineer. So I was excited. Yeah, I'm going to do this at Iowa State. But then I realized you don't get into your hands-on portion until your junior year. And I told my advisor, this is not for me. I need to be hands-on. And so that's when I was introduced to industrial technology, where I can have courses that also encompass engineering. And it was hands-on because I dealt with occupational safety and health. And so with that field, there's so many risks, right? And so an opportunity came up at L'Oreal for an internship. And that was in our research and innovation division. And that's where I really gained a lot of my exposure and knowledge. And the risk that we did is different from insurance, right? But again, it's still risk, the what is. And so for that journey, I did that for a couple of years. Then I moved to Georgia and worked for a company called 3M, everyone knows. But that was a little different because I came from cosmetics, then transitioned to 3M where we made missile heads. So when you think of 3M, you don't think of missile heads, right? You think of what? Tape, PPE. So that was a different set of risks that I had to look at. And then an opportunity came up at a company called Luxottica, which owns Sunglass Hut, Lens Crafters. So as you can see, different industries have different risks, right? And then full circle, right back in 2018, came back to L'Oreal, overseeing all of our EHS, Environmental Health and Safety Program, which also encompass construction. So that's just a brief journey of my career.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Genevieve, can you walk us through yours?
I can try. So again, I'm going to try to keep it brief. I, unlike the other two ladies, and probably many of you on this call, did not really have a thing in my head that I knew that I wanted to do when I went to school. It actually blows my mind that there are so many of you actually majoring in risk management. When I was in college, that was not a thing. So I think you heard Denise say that I majored in English, which I thought one must need to know how to write and speak well to do almost any job. So I got into insurance through pure nepotism. My mother worked for State Farm for many years. That was where I had a lot of my internships and summer jobs. I did move into other companies for internships, but that is where I ended up. I graduated and moved on to the agency side. So my first job out of college was to be technically a producer, but as we know, at 22, you're a CSR. I did move into the underwriting side with Philly Insurance, and while I was there, got my master's in international marketing because I wanted to move into less specifically underwriting and more on the corporate marketing side, but also the broker outreach role. So moved to PLM, which is a much smaller company than Philly, and was granted a lot of opportunities for growth, for travel, and was able to use my degree a little bit more. From there, where I was still an underwriter, I was tapped to be the first formal employee for the reinvigoration of a long dormant wholesale brokerage side of Philly's sort of company group, I guess you'd call it. So I have been building that for the past 3 years. With now we are up to 6 people, but so my journey through that has been interesting. It has been marketing, it has been operations, it has been underwriting, IT, sales, the whole deal. And I have gotten a real crash course in absolutely every aspect of the industry in a very short amount of time. And that's actually been an incredible experience. So I've been lucky to get to try my hand at a lot of different things all at the same time.
Absolutely. Well, that's great to hear. Thank you all for sharing your path through the industry and how you kind of got to the great positions that you are currently in. I do want to talk about, what do you love about your current role? Like, what are you excited about, and what makes you excited to go to work every day about the job that you're currently in? Denise, do you mind starting us off again?
Oh, no, I have no problem. I would say, what do I love about my role? It's different. It's different every day. And insurance, as you know, some people think it's mundane. It's a lot of individual decisions and questions that have to be made. But when you're in business development, a lot of times everyone needs you differently. So I am a different person to each underwriter, depending on what functions I need to be helping them with. I'm different to each broker. Some brokers know QBE in and out. They know exactly who they need to talk to. They know exactly what our appetite is. Other brokers that I'm just meeting, I'm having to give them the tutorial on, hey, you don't know me as Denise Hunter, and you don't know QBE. So it's a different relationship. So I feel the best part of my job is I get to kind of be the chameleon in the room, depending on how I want to handle it. And the other great opportunity for QBE right now is, you always think it's great to go to those companies where everybody knows who you are. So at Crum & Forster, at AIG, at Zurich, I had those opportunities. It's different when you walk in the room and nobody really knows what QBE is or what they do or what they can offer. So it's a different skill set that I've had to employ at this point. It's not that everybody knows who I am, so everyone's just flocking business over to me when I'm doing this and that. And it's a different hustle. So I'm excited about that opportunity.
Absolutely. I guess we can go in the same direction that we went. So Laynnea, could you share what you love about your current role?
Yes, sure. Just to kind of echo what Denise said, I love the fact that I get to interact with so many different partners and so many different groups, and especially because I am that bridge between the two. So I'm in the salon, actually seeing consumers come in, assessing those risks. So that's a different perspective. Then I'm in the laboratories, which is totally different from a salon, right? So actually seeing the chemists formulate the different products that we have, and then looking at the other aspects of the small scale of a manufacturing. We have like a pilot plant. So seeing those different dynamics and talking to different business groups, even your finance, workers' comps, to see, okay, what are our risks? What are the injuries? What are the incidents? What is the cost? And being able to really put that in a format that others understand, and how can they improve the culture. So being that center person, I love being the one that everyone knows. Hi, Laynnea. Kind of like Cheers, right? Dating myself, where everyone knows your name. And so it's really exciting, especially seeing the different products, knowing that I helped keep employees safe. My team and I, we work together. There's always something changing. And the fact that I also have a different hat, a hard hat, which I might say is Dallas Cowboys, because that is my team. So one day I'm on the in the salon, in the lab, and then I'm actually on the construction site. So it's very dynamic, very different, very engaging. So it's not the same thing every day, and you see different risks. And that's why I love that it's not the same, it's forever changing.
I'm going to tell you, the entire room had a collective sigh because we were really liking you until you said that Dallas Cowboys thing. I mean, at least I like a loyal, at least you're not a bandwagon, because it's not like they've been good the last couple of years. So if you're willing to go with the punishment, it's fine. But I'm hope the rest of the things you talk about are really good, because
I'm a loyal fan, and the colors are great, right?
Okay, I do like the colors, but we'll talk about that. But not together.
They're not that good.
Before it gets too hostile, Genevieve, can you tell us about what you love about your role?
So to sort of revert back to me not exactly knowing what I wanted to do with my career, I am incredibly grateful for being able to do all of these things in this role. It's actually been really enlightening for me to discover that there are parts of it that I did not expect to like that have really kind of become my thing. I am realizing that I love the designing of the policies, the procedures, the SOPs. I'd like to be able to organize it in the way that we want, because it's new. And I think that that's been an incredible opportunity, because most of the time you're coming into a job that is established, or yes, you can put your stamp on it, but this has been, I get to say exactly what I want it to be. And I get to teach other people to do it the way that we have as a team established to be the correct way. I get to make changes if there are things that are not going well or not correct in any given moment. And I think that that's something that's very satisfying. And sort of to take that point a little bit further, because again, we're growing, and a lot of what we're trying to do is business development, and it's new product, new entity, really. Seeing tangible changes, quantifiable changes, seeing things in front of me that are monetary, a list of names that I brought in, and I made this happen. And, you know, it wasn't just me. I have a wonderful team of people working with me, but it's just incredibly gratifying to have a tangible list, report, whatever it may be. But again, and it's helping me to see where I want to take it and see where I want my own role to go as it changes.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, they all sound like great roles that you guys are currently in. But I did want to talk about if you've ever changed areas of your job and what kind of led to those changes and how you made that change. So Genevieve, I'm going to make you go first this time, because I happen to know that you have. So I'd love to hear more about that.
I think that I've sort of kind of explained that already. So I will try and not repeat myself too much. But again, working for a company that gives you the opportunity to try different things, even in my underwriting role, I was given the opportunity to do, travel for business development and marketing. We were able to go out with loss control. We were able to sit on committees that affect the processes for the entire company, not just my particular role. And that was something that led me to raise my hand and say, we're starting this new thing. I am fine as an underwriter. It's maybe not my dream job. So let's see if this is. And it's, again, given me the opportunity to do absolutely everything within this industry, all at the same time. So that I went from underwriter job to underwriter job before this. So the fact that that was one underwriter job to another was, okay, this is just what I do. And then I was in a place where I could try everything else. I'm like, okay, so this has opened up doors. And I think that's, I'm going to keep saying it's so important within a company that you're choosing to work for.
Absolutely. Do either Denise or Laynnea, do either of you have any experiences changing jobs in the areas that each job is in that you'd like to discuss?
Yeah, I can go. Or Laynnea, if you want to go first.
Okay. I was really just in the same aspect. However, the pandemic actually brought upon a new role for me, being on the crisis committee with our president and CEO of L'Oreal USA. Was a different shift, because realizing where our gaps are. No one expected this pandemic, right? And so being able to navigate through the different changes and ensuring that the employees feel comfortable, not only the employees, but consumers, because we do testing on consumers. So what are the risks of having so many people on site? How can we maneuver and still keep the business going? So that was a whole new aspect and function for me. And one of the biggest keys that I learned is communication, different forms of communication, especially when employees are anxious, something new, what's going on. So communication is not just an email, right? That's not personable at all. So developing a program and a plan to actually have those discussions, Q&A discussions where employees can be vulnerable as well as the leaders and answer those questions. That really helped with that aspect of the pandemic, because having different forms of communication, those emails, as well as those FAQ sessions with the leaders really helped us. And I think for me, that was something that was new, although I've always been a generalist, but that was a different aspect that I haven't dealt with, and I'm sure many others haven't. So being able to know how to navigate and remain calm during those times, that's something we really had to do. And my team and I, we really make sure we push that. And actually, when employees coming back on site, just showing them in advance, what does that journey look like coming on site? Just so that they know what to look for, because no one likes surprises, right? You show up like, wait, no. So just preparing them. And so preparing them really kind of helps a lot. So that was my my little transition addition that I had.
Absolutely. I'm sure the pandemic changed a lot of people's positions, but that's a really big change. So one that you really wouldn't have seen coming beforehand. Absolutely. Denise, did you have an experience?
Yes, I would say, I guess I'll give you some understanding. In insurance, think about it like this. We all think of things in a year cycle, because most things, of course, are for a policy is for a year. And one thing that I was taught very early on is the most important renewal of the year is the one that you need to have with yourself. Meaning take stock in what you're doing now. And I would do it every year. And that kind of helped me go from underwriting, well, from claims to underwriting, and then underwriting to business development. I would take stock when I was in claims. Okay, what do I like about this job? What do I not like about this job? What do I hope I never have to do again? You make that list and actually write it out and take the time to do it, because you think about how much time you spend on those real important renewals and how much time and effort you dedicate, but you don't dedicate the same effort to yourself and figuring out what you like. Because what I found is I could sometimes take a lot of those things off the I don't like to do pile. Sometimes that means new job. You know, Denise, if you don't like doing underwriting, then maybe underwriting is not good for you. But then there's other times where I could find workarounds. And when you communicate that to a manager who's ever in charge of helping your career trajectory, a lot of times they'll be able to say, well, hey, you don't really like this part, but you like this part, you can pick up this project. Or, you know what, we have these roles that might fit because it's doing exactly those things. So sometimes it's also being a little bit humble to know, I always think, of course, I know everything, but I don't know all the positions that are coming up. I don't know what everything entails. I don't know what my CEO is thinking of some positions they're going to be creating that I don't even know exist, but might fit me perfectly. So I think one is making sure you take stock of yourself. Then two is making sure you tell people what those things are, because it's great for you to be very self-aware. But the problem is if you're the only person who knows what you want to do, then you're doing a disservice to yourself, because you're never going to be able to do it, because you're only going to raise your hands for the opportunities you know about and not for the ones that are probably above your pay grade, but those are the ones you really want. So I would say take stock in yourself, make sure you spend as much time doing your personal review as you're going to do for another company.
That was so beautifully said. That's exactly the advice I needed to hear 10 years ago.
Well, what's crazy is it's so relevant today, even during the pandemic. As Laynnea was speaking, there are so many jobs that shifted and opportunities that shifted. So the good thing was you can get on those calls with your CEO. How many times are you and your CEO in the living room together at this point? It's a vulnerable situation, but it was easier because the barriers were broken down. But some people know how to take advantage of that and some people did not. But then that's how opportunity is created.
And I think that to that same point, yes, it gave you more opportunities, but it also completely changed the way companies are set up. I mean, Absolutely. There might be brand new roles that, like Denise said, just haven't occurred to you.
And thinking really, we always talk about thinking outside of the box, think outside the box, but really thinking outside of the box, right? To see, okay, don't limit your thinking, because we never would have thought this pandemic would hit us in our lifetime, right? So it's just something in being able to be agile. A lot of people don't like change. So definitely explaining the why it's important to change and why we have to change. So it's very important to be agile for that.
Absolutely. All really great advice. I know personally I'm taking it all in because I feel like that's really important. So I hope all of you are taking notes and remembering all of this as well. So I know we've talked about what you love about your role and what the kind of path that you've been on and everything. So I'd love to kind of talk pros and cons of your current position. So I know we've talked about what you love. So feel free to let's be really honest about what are some things that you might not particularly love about the current position you're in, and how you feel about that and what's kind of changing currently. Denise, do you mind starting for us?
No, not a problem. Let's see. Business development. So loving about it, what I'm doing, or the company. Well, I guess think about it like this. Insurance is insurance. Everyone does it a little bit different, but insurance is still based upon the principles of contracts and things you sign and getting clients. So generally speaking, the process is the same. Pros and cons. I love doing this. I love being able to kind of make my own schedule, and there's no specific overhead or limits, but that can also be a con because a lot of times there are no limits. It's not just the 9 to 5, because if one of my clients or broker has a claim that happens or a fire that's taking place and I need to help set up emergency response, then my phone is going to ring on Saturday night at 2 a.m., whatever that looks like, or whatever help they need. It's kind of making sure you put yourself out there. So the unpredictability is the great pro and can be the great con, depending on the day that I'm necessarily experiencing it. Pros and cons, I've explained, some of the things about companies, as far as when you're at a company that everybody knows versus when you're at a company that no one knows. That has its pros and cons, because people can like you and not do business with you. And that was a very hard lesson for me to learn, because when you go from company to company, it's like, I'm doing business with all of these people, but sometimes it's not about you, it's about your company. And sometimes that's hard to swallow, because you need to build those things up. You need to build trust. You need to get people to understand what your forms say and how to use them. And it's a little bit different of a process where you come in for a company that everybody knows your name, Laynnea, and people are like, oh yeah, everybody knows your name. And, obviously they're going to go with AIG. Obviously they're going to go with Zurich. And while QBE has clout, don't get me wrong, we're 1 and 2 in Asia. We're top 30 in the United States, but I was used to being at the companies that were top 5 in the United States. That's a different ball game. So it's all about kind of figuring out those pieces. And like I said, I feel like for my job, any pro can be a con depending on the day and what is happening.
Absolutely, absolutely. Laynnea, could you share with us your pros and cons?
Yeah, sure. Definitely, Denise. That was perfect. That your pros can be cons and vice versa, right?
Oh, yeah.
So for me, I know I mentioned this before about for the pros is being a business partner. And to me, that is a really, really pro because it builds credibility. I'm shadowing our chemists, I'm shadowing our different departments to get an understanding of the business and how can I help with our claims department, with our regulatory department, with our finance department. So many people think that, okay, you're in the research, right? So you just focus on the labs. But no, I have other business partners that I need to help. And so that I can do that bridging of the gap between the labs and the claims department because what they trust me, they trust my team because they see us, we're visible. So that's really the pros and the ability to be able to navigate through different conversations and to be the voice. So with that, the con sometimes is for me being an African American woman in my position, where in my field, you don't see so many minorities or people that look like me. It's male driven. So even, I know Denise doesn't like this, but even when I go on the construction site with my hard hat, maybe it's the hard hat, maybe not, but to see that and to gain that respect that I know what I'm talking about. I know the rules and having that understanding in the beginning, it can be a challenge because they're not used to seeing a female, an African-American female in charge of a site, especially construction. And so building that trust and building that not to be looked at as the safety police, oh, here she comes with the different risks. She's just gonna write us up in the inspections and here you go. No, but actually look at it as a partner and to see what can we do better and also highlighting that. A lot of times when you think of risk management or someone doing an audit or inspection, you think about, oh, they're just trying to find something. They're trying to find something. But I do it differently. I look at it differently where, no, I'm trying to see how can I help? How can we help? And that's where it really helps with engaging and having those conversations, being personable. So that's important to really get a grasp and thanking employees, recognizing what they're doing well. So even from the insurance side, I'm sure when you're going out and people always think, okay, they're gonna rate us high or low. So, but being able to give suggestions, I find that has always helped me, even when doing different risk assessments, looking at the severity, the frequency. Okay, how can we help reduce this? And what do you suggest? So it's important for me. So that's one of those cons. And the other con I would say is definitely creating SOPs, procedures, because sometimes being technical, you want to, make sure you have all of the technical language, but then you have to realize, wait a minute, who is this SOP? Who is this procedure for? It's not for me. It's for those who are going to utilize it. So making sure that those procedures are not 50 pages long where no one's going to understand, but make it so that it's understandable. So that's always a challenge, just to make sure that our standard operation procedures are fitting for the users.
Well, as it turns out, that's the part of my job I love. So if you need help.
Okay.
I'm surprised. I didn't know.
Yeah, it's definitely because sometimes as a technical subject matter expert, we tend to talk above our audience. We think that even acronyms, we think that they know the acronyms, OSHA or different things, but they don't. So it's important to make sure that, especially if we want employees to look at the different recommendations that we have and really to buy in, that they understand it.
Absolutely. Genevieve, can you share with us your pros and cons?
Sure. In the spirit of hyper honesty, I need a vacation. I would say that while the taking on multiple roles and learning things as quickly as I've had to do in the past few years, I am ready to try and narrow down the things that I am personally responsible for and the things that I can either delegate or create a role for someone else to handle those things. And that for me is a little tough because I tend to be a little bit type A. I want to make sure that it's still being done in a way that I'm comfortable with and that I can kind of monitor. But that is part of growth, and it's part of creating something new. And it is the part of it that I now feel like I'm ready for. So the con is that I am tired. The con is that I have been feeling like I've had to learn some things on the fly a little bit too quickly or not as thoroughly as I may have wanted to. And I don't like feeling as though I'm either not doing as good a job as I would like to, or that I do not fully understand something that I am doing. And that just by the nature of what we're doing has been the case from time to time. And I'm here to tell you that that's okay, and it does work out, but in the meantime, it's uncomfortable. The pro, I would say to all of that, is that because of what we've done, because of how we've grown, and because I have been a part of it from the beginning, I can make that job for somebody, whatever I want, or multiple jobs. And I can narrow down or pull out the things that I'm doing that I am not as happy with or as knowledgeable about as someone else may be. So I would say that that's an incredible opportunity. I don't think that a lot of times people get that one.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all so much. Now I was kind of hoping to hear what a day in your life in your current position looks like. And Laynnea, I was hoping to start with you because I'm really interested in kind of hearing what your day looks like, because you don't work specifically in insurance, it's more risk related. So just hearing how your day looks like, I think would be really interesting.
Yeah, so I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but it's so forever changing dynamic, right? So my team and I, we do different types of trainings, hands-on training, because that's the best part of learning. Sometimes, like I mentioned, we have SOPs, but I love the fact that we change it up a little bit. For example, going into the labs and doing a spills training where we actually do simulations. So that's really getting the hands-on experience to see, okay, we have these procedures. Now let's see how good are these procedures. And you learn so many different things. And I think that part is the engagement part that I really like. And that's where the learning begins. Another thing is I'm creative, and I always challenge my team to be creative. So what did I do? I challenged them. We did TikTok videos for safety. I said, this is the new era, new generation. I want to do something different. So we created different TikTok videos that involve the different employees. So from the office, the laboratories, the manufacturing, pilot plant. So what does that look like? What does a safety TikTok video look like? We have something called a safety improvement opportunity, where we have hummingbirds throughout the facility that have barcodes on it. So you can scan it if you see something that is a good idea. So you scan that barcode with your phone. So anyone can do this, even a visitor, and they can submit an improvement opportunity. So we had a case where this one intersection in our a facility where people would definitely collide because they couldn't see around the corner. So one opportunity was to put a dome mirror so that you can see. So we created a TikTok that with the music, and it was fun, where people almost bumped into each other, and then the lively music behind it that really engaged employees. So a day for me and my team is always trying to do something that is creative, especially from a safety, because we're trying to shift the mindset, right? That the risk, we don't want employees just to look for us to identify the risk, but we want them to be able to identify the risk, not only at work, but at home as well. Because if you're safe at work, you're safe at home, and vice versa, right? And so just incorporating that, and even mental health. So that's something that we're doing for our medical response team, having them trained in mental health, because anxiety, being able to understand when you think of an incident or a cut, some people, when they see blood, they may panic, right? So how do you, as a medical response team, how does a medical response team handle that from a mental health awareness aspect, where you're calming that person down in different technique? It's more than just providing first aid or medical treatment, really engaging with that employee just to calm them down and ensuring them. So for me, I love that aspect, because it's never the same. And again, the involvement of employees is the benefit. Can you imagine going to a hair salon that we have? I'm excited looking at the different risks. You're thinking about, what risk is there at a salon? Just think about blow drying hair, using hair dyes, coloring, all these different things. How can we improve the risk, not only for our employees, but for our consumers coming in? So being creative to see, and working with our partners to see, how can we make safety fun? So that is my biggest thing in the day in the life. I love it.
Sounds like a busy day, but
Yeah.
I love it. I love hearing all about it and all the creative ways that you've come up with to share that safety. Genevieve, could you talk about what a day in your life might look like?
Literally no. It is something different every day. I would say that the common denominators, we have team meetings every day, but we also, and that's to check in on the underwriting of the things that we're working on submitting, the going over renewals, the making sure everyone's on the same page about processing work. We are working on sort of a project where we've brought someone in to specifically formalize some of our SOPs. So that's something that we're talking about daily. We are also making sure I meet every day with both the business development and the underwriting teams for PLM to make sure that what we're doing on our side is copacetic, and making sure that we're, just continuing to stay on mission and make sure that we're in full cooperation and understanding the needs of the underwriting and business development teams as they relate to what we're doing, because we are very intertwined. Other than that, though, I mean, I meet with Sydney and her marketing team once a week. I am responsible for making sure that in our publications that go out as PLM, we're making sure to include ABM in that. I am working with IT to get a new agency management system, to build out the CRM that we're already using, to enhance our website. I have never in my life made a website, but now I have. So I'm also doing my own quoting. I still do temporarily handle a territory. And while I say quoting, it is the carriers that we work with doing the quoting, but we do make sure that we're trying to send them the most completely underwritten thing that we can in order to make that move smoothly. I do travel sometimes. I do the broker shows. I'm going to be in Missouri next week. Lake of the Ozarks. I'm actually scared now that I've watched Ozark, but looking forward to it nonetheless. So there isn't a thing. My meetings, my quoting, my team outreach, all of those things every day, which is important because it makes sure that we're all on the same page as we build and grow. But the rest widely varies.
Absolutely. Denise, could you talk about what a day in your life looks like?
Yes. So first, I was listening to Laynnea, and it's funny you're talking about when I'm speaking above, and I sometimes think, I say business development and then realize that everyone does business development a little bit different. So I guess I should a little bit explain what the role does. And in that, I'll give you kind of what a week looks like for me, because sometimes a day it will kind of vary. So in business development, you are usually tasked with being that interconnected bridge between your broker partners and your underwriting and senior staff. The brokers are going to bring in things and you help get things written, but it's also a relationship role. So while underwriters a lot of times are looking at each individual account they have, I'm usually looking at the overall book. So QBE might have a $10 million book with Willis Radnor. So when one account comes up and then, the head of that particular office is calling saying, hey, I need you to look at this as a relationship. We need you to do us a favor. But it's the same way the other way around when I'm calling them saying, hey, we have a $10 million book with you. We don't want to lose this account. So it's a lot of relationship building and networking. And a lot of times that comes into client play as well. There are a lot of times where I'm sitting down, QBE's just written a client and we're going out for those first conversations. So I may go as well. Showing support of the marketing and distribution and sales side. So if you think, what does my day look like? So for a week, on Monday, we have round tables, I guess you can call them for lack of better terms. We're getting together with the underwriters and staff to say, okay, what is being quoted this week? What is not being quoted? What are we waiting to get in? What do our renewals look like for first, 30, 60, 90 days? What help do you need? So if there's this account that's renewing, do we have the submission in yet? Have we told them what our targets are yet? Because a lot of times what happens are, I might be getting questions from brokers and the underwriters getting questions from brokers. So we have to make sure we come together, because sometimes you think one account and, that one person's handling it. It's usually not that way. So you have the broker, you have the producer, you have the account manager. A lot of times you have whoever the manager is of those people. And then you have a lot of times the head of the office is kind of coming in. So a lot of times a multifaceted approach is the underwriter is working with one group. I, as a business development, am working with another group, and my zonal, who is usually the head of underwriting for our region, he might be talking to somebody as well. So it's making sure we all get together, because we might all be promising different things in these conversations. And at the end of the day, they're going to want whoever said the best thing. So you're getting together with your teams, but then I also need to build my book with my broker. So a lot of times I have a lot of standing meetings. So I have, a monthly meeting, a bi-monthly meeting with different markets. And what happens, we get on the phone, we're going to talk about, okay, what has happened since the last time we've spoken? A lot of times in the pandemic, it was, we're still home. Are you home? Yeah, we're home too. Okay, so that's the social portion. What happens next? But anytime, it might be events that are happening that I want to invite them to with us. Like when NextGen had the golf outing, I brought some of our broker partners with us. Why? On those calls, we're asking, hey, would you like to come? That networking is invaluable to spend that amount of hours with people. So different brokers, I'm doing that for. So my territory is, I would say, central to South Jersey. If you're a Jersey person, you kind of understand there is no central. So North Jersey, some up there. I have all of South Jersey. I have Pennsylvania, but east of Pittsburgh. So I'm not going to Pittsburgh. It's just too far. So I take that Philly area is fine for me. And then I now just have Maryland, technically a little bit of Virginia, and DC. So imagine the brokers that are within that. So you think, you have a monthly with Willis. Yes, but there are 5 Willis offices. So I need a monthly with each, because each are doing something different. So it's a lot of networking and keeping things in mind. It's a lot of making sure I take the right notes, because you want to make sure people know that you're listening. So if we had a call last month about a renewal, when it comes up this month and they say something, I'm like, yeah, I remember you said that. Not, it's like, it's the newest thing I've ever heard. They're like, so you weren't listening last week. So the last time we spoke about this, you just took nothing from that. So it's making sure you kind of keep things in line as much as you can, but of course mistakes happen. Then there's checking back in with your underwriters, because now that they had those conversations with your brokers, sometimes the underwriters are on if they have the time. Sometimes it's just you. Well, just me. And now I need to make sure I check back in. Okay, these are the expectations that the broker are looking for. They understand the 5-point rate on the auto, but they're saying, they're going to go to market if they have more than 10 points on the GL. So what does that mean? General liability and auto is just the auto coverages. I'm making sure that I don't take for granted that I may use words and terms and slang and you might not know what I'm talking about. So by any means, ask the questions, but I'll try and make sure I put it at the correct language. But even your excess and your auto, it's making sure people understand what you're doing and how you're talking and how you talk about it. So then on other days, that means now I have, what am I up to? That was Monday afternoon. So sometime later in the week after these calls, now I also need to go out and personally network. Are there any events in the region? For me, I try to make sure if there is something, whether it be ISOP, NextGen, CPCU, IICF, APIW, Laynnea, there's so many great organizations that are local. So I try and make sure I support and get some networking in there. Right now, I know that I need to hire, QBE is supposed to hire 22 underwriters probably in the next year across the board, not just necessarily in Philly. That'd be amazing if that was for me, but across the board. So what am I doing? I'm also in charge of helping recruit. So when I'm going out on networking, it's not just like I was saying before, hey, I'm Denise Hunter, this is QBE. It's also, would you like to come work for us? So that's an interesting conversation trying to put in the mix as well. So it's helping recruitment. A lot of times now, because we're hiring, I'm doing a lot of interviews during the week, which is a great thing to be able to be on the front row of after having so many that I had to go through myself. There's a lot of lunch meetings in there that I put in because I can tell you, I can learn and network more in one lunch hour with someone than I can on 20 or 30 FaceTime meetings, because you let down that guard. You talk about the business, then you get to know that person, and then there's that personal connection. So understanding, since insurance is always personal, you have to make sure you get back to that as much as people are available to, because then you put the pandemic in, some people are fine with being out and some people are not. I have to do my job no matter who is comfortable or not. So I have to find individual ways to make sure that I can connect with them on a level and respecting their boundaries, because right now everybody's at a different path. So I say, yeah, then I guess it's that. And then by the end of the week, I probably am like Genevieve and I need a vacation, but I've spoken to so many people. So it's also getting my head together. So I try to put some time on my calendar. Sometimes it's just the 30 minutes after I've had a long meeting to type up the notes and put them somewhere. Because a lot of times I will start writing on random scraps of paper. And then by the time I'm done with my day of calls, I lost that paper. I don't remember what I've talked about, and it's not very helpful. So I would say my day in the life is a lot of networking, a lot of talking, a lot of understanding what the values and goals and understanding of what QBE is trying to do, one in the region, two with each broker, because each broker has a different plan. So I need to understand that as well. So it's a lot of understanding everything that you're in at sometimes the surface level and sometimes a little bit deeper. They're not usually coming to me to say, hey, Denise, I'm trying to think of anything in front of us. ISOPs, renewal is coming up. We really need the molestation coverage. And I'm like, one, no, we're not doing it. Just so I put that out there. I don't think that QBE is going to write that, but it's understanding what the risk profile looks like and then bringing that to, because they're bringing it to me because of their relationship, not necessarily because they're thinking I'm going to be able to get them that. But when I tell you, I've always said when I was in claims, nobody liked me. That's because in claims, your company doesn't want you to pay out anything. Your client usually doesn't want you to pay out anything unless they have a personal vested interest, and they're like, just hurry up and pay and get it over. And you're like, well, I need to kind of examine. My whole job is to examine the facts and figure out what is legally obligated for you to pay and anyone to pay. Then you have the claimant who's always like, you didn't pay me enough. So at the end of the day, when you're in claims, everyone thinks that you're not doing a good job. I say that facetiously, but you have to think of that type of relationship is always happening. So a lot of times in business development, it's the same, but a little bit different, because now everybody comes to me to complain so that I can help them get the other things done. So the broker comes and says, the rates are too high. We don't want to pay that. And hey, if you guys can't help us, then they're going to market us. So then I go to my underwriter and they're like, they're telling me I need 20% rate. I only gave them 10. I'm helping as much as I can. So now it's a lot of personal relationships to help. Okay, well, what can we do here? What does this look like? Do we have any room here? What type of, can we add some deductibles? Can we add in, something that will kind of help offset? So it's a lot of problem solving. It's a lot of people solving. And it's a lot of getting in and out of deals. So in order to be in business development, you have to be able to go high level into the weeds, high level. So it's very understanding the relationship, but okay, we're talking about this renewal, but then I need to understand the relationship at the end of the day. So it is complicated. It is crazy. There are times when Genevieve, when I tell you how your honesty and your candor and saying, there are times I have no clue what the hell these people are talking about because I can't know everything about every account. And it's just, and you just smile and nod. And sometimes I'm writing down notes of question mark. What are they talking about? I didn't know that. So what are you? And it's understanding that vulnerability. But to Laynea's point, a lot of times being, a Black female or female at all, in these situations, it's harder for us to show that vulnerability because it's hard how we already had to claw to get there. So now you don't want to look like the one who doesn't know what you're doing now that you're there.
Exactly.
I've taken it to a level that I don't know if we were ready for this answer, but it's funny because in my day in the life, there was one thing that I was told that I needed to be old, white, and male to get to the places I needed to be.
So our VP of IT, who I really like, has a term for that. It's called male, pale, and stale.
Yes. When I tell you, and that's why we say, when you say it, you can say it in many different ways, but pretty much I was told I'm not going to be able to get to a certain point because one, I am eternally young, obviously. I am obviously not male or don't represent those pronouns. And I am a Black woman. Like I was being told pretty much from the gate, you're going to have a glass ceiling of here because of this. Now, why does that play into your answer? I know Sydney's wondering as far as your day in the life, because a lot of that happens too. A lot of I'm going into conversations with underwriters and I'm the one, for lack of better terms, who yields the power of the overall relationship. And yet they always want to talk to the white younger intern that's sitting next to me, and he knows nothing, does nothing, actually doesn't even present as knowing everything. So it's not a him problem. It's the environment that I'm in and how I have to steer that conversation back to me, but also being understanding that I can't then become the angry Black woman, because anytime you get a little bit more aggressive, I have to remain cool and calm and letting them know they're an absolute idiot. It is a delicate balance of relationships and talking and how you can do things and how you can't do things, because we're talking about being, take it back to the world. You're talking about being woke. You're talking about how people, interact. You're talking about calling people out and, these things aren't right. That's all well and great. But I'm going to tell you on behalf of QBE, and that's how I have to speak. There are my personal beliefs. There are company beliefs. And either way, there's a way that I need to understand how I go in between. I've had some of the most asinine things said to me. Just the other day, and this is the reason why I need to make sure I say just the other day, like within the last 30 days, I was in marketing with a client and they said something about a marketing person that I know of who had been in the role before. And they were like, yeah, I know a lot of our account managers used to just do business with her because she had a nice insert some type of physical attribute here. Then he laughed. And he was like, not that we do that for you. Then he laughed. And I was just sitting here like, I didn't know how much I was going to allow him to keep burying himself, because I did not laugh at the first aspect. He already realized like, oh, maybe that wasn't appropriate to say or think or do. But I also still represent, we have a business relationship. So I have to make sure I set that boundary for myself of what is acceptable and not. QBE completely understands that I will act with the utmost professionalism, but it is funny when you look at these people and sometimes they're talking, you just turn off your camera. I've done that many times because I can't make the faces sometimes my face shows that they're an idiot, and I don't think they want me to show that. So
I cannot vouch for this enough.
Yeah.
The more you can practice controlling your face. Because I can tell you, I believe that I am the oldest person on this panel, and I can tell you it is not a skill I have mastered.
I'm going to tell you
for yourself. So it's important, like you said, Denise, it's important for you to advocate yourself for yourself and to be authentic. And with all of our roles, although they may be different, the biggest thing is being authentic and gaining that respect and doing it in a professional manner, but still letting the tone know that this is unacceptable and this is not what I expect or will accept. So it's important to make sure in these roles as women that we hold our ground. And like you said, sometimes we're looked at as, oh, a woman is so emotional, but no, stand your ground and affirm, because you're supposed to be here. So it's important to advocate for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Well said.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So important. And thank you all for your insight on this. I've learned so much, and I just personally appreciate it so much for everything that you guys have said today. I'm going to be processing all day. I don't know if I'll get any work done, because I really appreciated all of your insights on your various roles and responsibilities and your experience in the workplace. So we are a little over 11, so I want to respect everybody's time and let everybody get about their day and get a start on the weekend, hopefully soon. But I want to thank everybody so much for joining us. Thank you to our amazing panelists. You guys were phenomenal, and I really appreciate your insight. For all of you who are listening, please make sure to join us next week for the insurance summer series on insurance questions you don't know, nobody wants to ask. I think that's the title. I might have butchered it, but the registration link will be in the chat. So please make sure to join us for that and keep an eye out for this recording. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out to anybody. Follow us on social media, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
And thank you, Sydney, for moderating. Fantastic.
Yes, thank you, Sydney.
Thanks for having me.